Holding Perek Vov. And last week we had what I would call a strict class. A strenge limud. And I get to it every year, every time I come to this. There's no sweet way to learn this. Last week's class we covered a lot of ground, we read a whole page, Kimat. And we explored this sugya. We talked a lot. It was a long class if I remember correctly. And we talked about it in a rather comprehensive way. And in short, what we discussed is the following. That there is Teira Leiba Shamayim here and Teira Bashamayim. These are my words now. These are not the words of the Tanya at all. There's Teira when you say Leiba Shamayim, the word Teira is not in heaven. And then there's Teira Bashamayim, Teira which is in heaven. What do I mean when I say this? Technically, the difference between Nigla the Teira and Nistar. Halacha and Pnimius. Teira has a guf and a neshama. The guf of Teira is the Shulchan Aruch, how a Yid is supposed to behave. And the neshama of Teira is what's the point of how a Yid behaves. And the difference between this guf and this neshama is that the guf is given to people on earth. Halacha has to be, the Gemara says, man necha. When the Eibishter has a shayla in halacha, he finds out which Rav he can consult on earth now to help him pass this halacha, because Fayachal by the Eibishter, by Kuchabrichu, it's also true, Teira Leiba Shamayim, Teira is not in heaven, and halacha is at the paskin in this world. Which is what Teira about is. But there's also Teira Bashamayim. Teira Bashamayim is what we call Pnimius HaTeira, the face of Teira, the neshama of Teira, Kabbalah, and Hasidus, and Taimei Teira, and so on. What's the difference as it relates to our conversation? The difference as it relates to our conversation is the following. In Nigla the Teira and Teira Leiba Shamayim, there's three groupings, there's three classes. Choiv and Isid and Rishus. Things that you have to do, things that you're not allowed to do, and then, Kefi Nidvas Liba Matahir. In a cynical tone, do whatever you want. Shlach l'chol daitacha ani einim mitzavesa. Tu wie du verstehst, do what you wish. Do what you understand. Do what you wish, do what you understand. That's what they created Teira. In a percentile, what percentage of the world and of life is choiv? You have to do things, 10%, 15%, 20%. I don't know what percentage of life you have obligation. In percentile, what percentage of the world is asur? There's a percentage of things that are asur in the world. And most of what's in the world is not in the category of chayiv, it's not in the category of isser, it's in the category of rishus. You were given freedom and choose as you wish. And I mentioned to you that one extreme of this model is called the novo b'reshus HaTeira. He's from 100%, never crosses a line, doesn't do a single aveda. He's precise about all the mitzvahs, and he keeps the Shulchan Aruch with the Teira Klapeh precisely. And the Teira calls him a menuvu. Fair, discussing, shameful. Why? Because he's keeping the letter of the law without the spirit of the law. He's doing the mitzvahs, he's not doing any avedas, he's keeping halacha in the technical sense, but the neshama bali made, the neshama is someplace else. The neshama is fargoyisht. The neshama is not in the spirit of the halachas of Teira. And then there's Teira Bashamayim. This is all familiar, it's all last week's class. As I'm saying it, you probably are remembering. Then there's Teira Bashamayim. Teira Bashamayim is called Pnimius HaTeira, the face of Teira. In Teira Bashamayim, there's no such thing as neutral. That's the key. There's no such thing as neutral. There's no such thing as neutral. It's either good or not good. Or in the wording of the Alter Rebbe, there's Sitta the Kedusha, the side of holiness, and then there's the other side. You don't say Sitta the Kedusha and Sitta the Klipa, or Sitta the Tumah. If you remember last week's class, one of the words that I focused the class on was the word Tumah. Because I think in Tanya, in Kama Makemis, especially in Perek Chavtes, the word Tumah helps explain how Pnimius HaTeira looks at the realm of Rishus. Instead of using the word Kedusha and Klipa, which is good and bad, you use the word Tara and Tumah. Clean or unclean, reigns and ishterei. In Teira Bashamayim, there's Sitta the Kedusha, the side of holiness, and then there's the other side. What's the other side? Sad Acha She'enei Tzad HaKedusha. That's it. If it's not Kedusha, it's the opposite. There's no neutral, there's no in-between, there's no center. What's Tzad HaKedusha? Two rules. The first rule of Tzad HaKedusha is Batal Etzla Yizbarach. The first rule of the side of holiness is Bittul HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the second rule of Sada Kedusha is that the Shechina is Sheil. That the Eibishter manifests, Hashem rests. And the Hebrew word that we use is Hashra, rather than the word Hislapshus. There's a whole discussion in Tanya and Chassidus about what Hashra means versus what Hislapshus means. Asora Sheyeshu ve'eske b'teva Shechina Shruya b'nei. There's a Hashra of Elokus. Hashra means that it comes down here just like it is up there. So Kedusha is a bittul, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and with a bittul HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Shechina rests. Sitra Achara is not bittul HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this is the reality that emerges, right? We're learning Tanya, and this is not the first time we're learning Tanya, but we're still the same people, so it still hurts. It's tutnachal today. Like I told you, when the person learns the Tanya for the first time, he says, I'm a Russian, I'm a bad person. What's the Tanya doing to me? They tell me the Hasidus is supposed to be so positive and uplifting. I never felt so tishmeted, so made to feel bad like when I'm learning to say Tanya Kaddish. And that's a problem with a Rebbe. You don't have the right Malamed, the right teacher, that's the way it comes across. The Tanya is, like it says in a Yem Yem, I think it's Chof Simen, or Chof Elo. Chassidus is a Getlecha Verstand. Es weiß, wie niedrig man ist, und wie hoch man kennt sich der Heim. Chassidus is a godly understanding. It shows the person how low he is, and how high he can raise himself. But the point of showing him how low he is not to make him feel bad. The point of showing him how low he is to show him the emes, right? Like I told you last week, that a goy said, Tanya took away from the world the child. What's a child? A child sees the whole world as serving him. There's a subjectivity to life. Tzaddik bein yerot, just like this. I'm for sure a tzaddik. Never that finished. So if you're a little bit less than me, you're a Beinani. If I like you and you're less than me, you're a Beinani. If I don't like you, you're less than me, you're a Russian. Tanya doesn't have such measure. Doesn't have criteria like that. Tanya tells the Vodem, Yossi, the way it is. And the Chas v'Shalom to sing, to say for Tanya Kaddish, and Chassidus in general, to put a person down, is trying to say the truth. And the truth is that we either are involved in a relationship with Hashem, or we're not involved in a relationship with Hashem. Our involvement in relationship with Hashem has two rules: bittul and hashras hashchina, or tahara and hashras hashchina, or otherwise. When people do neutral things, what does Alter Rebbe say in Tanya Chotes? When people do neutral things, they live. When you waste your time doing a paravezah, something which is not an aved and not a mitzvah, you're living. From which nefesh? Nefesh alakis and nefesh shabamis. Nefesh neutral doesn't have a mitzvah. There is no nefesh neutral. There is no nefesh without a charge. It's either this way or it's sad acher. Sitra acher doesn't mean bad. Sitra acher means the other side. That's all it means. The title of the word acher means the other. If sitra acher meant the side of bad, like you have the expression sitra bishin, which is the side of shame or side of schmutz, that's bad. But sitra acher doesn't mean bad. Sitra acher simply means not good, mer gonisht. So the Alter Rebbe made this proposal to argue and explain to us what klipa is. Okay? What is the context? And again, this is all chazara. All I did so far was repeat. And again, I imagine that you remember what I said, because I'm literally repeating the words from last week's class. Last week there was an hour, the Vaila, I'm only talking 14 minutes and 44 seconds. Watch me spend another hour just saying the same things again and again. The context is that we're talking about the nefesh habahamis, the animal soul. And we, in these chiyurim, dedicated a class to the etzem of the nefesh habahamis. We dedicated 2 classes to the koiches of the nefesh habahamis. And we dedicated the beginning of last week's class to the levush of the nefesh habahamis. The garments of the animal soul means that when I think or speak or do things that belong to sitra achra, and sitra achra means sadachra, sheni sadagidusha. It doesn't have to be bad in the sense that we use these terms in Elohaz. The bad means violent. Bad means evil in some other way. In Pnimiyas Ateiros, sitra achra doesn't mean bad, it means not good. That's the word. If it's not good, it's sitra achra. And if the word klipa makes you nervous, use the word tumah. And I think the word tumah also makes us nervous, but it's a term which reveals the reality of it. I have to live from something. When I'm doing in Yom of Kedusha, I'm living from Kedusha. If I'm not doing normal Kedusha, I'm living from what's not Kedusha. And what's not Kedusha is Tzad, the other side. I just want to show you the beginning of Perek Zayin, which is the next Perek. We're holding still Perek Vav. The beginning of Perek Zayin, of chapter 7, yeah? The beginning of Perek Zayin, the Alter Rebbe says, if I can bother you, do you have the Tanya, yeah? 5 lines in to Perek Zayin, it says these words. V'chein, kiyum v'chayis, the existence and life of kol ha'maisa, every action. Dibur, every spoken word. Umachshava, and every thought. B'inyenei elam hazeh, matters of this world. She'ein b'hem tzad isan. In no way is it usna. In no way is it treif. With the youth convention, in no way is it bad. Lei shadish v'lei onaf, not a root nor neither a root nor a branch. Mishasab mitzvahs leisaseh. From any one of the 365 negative commandments, whether they're the root of the negative commandment, the branch of the negative commandment, or the rabbinics that comes negative commandment, but then it's not in the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's simply the want of the body, its desire, and its lust. I don't know what the word used for taiva. Look at the next words. You need it. It keeps you alive. The kavana is not l'shem shamayim to serve Hashem with your body as you do this action. So the Alter Rebbe says these words. There is no advantage to these actions, spoken words and thoughts, from the animal soul itself. The animal soul that a Yid has is called klipa. What's made klipa? Sitra achra. What's made sitra achra? Tzad achra, she'in tzad gedusha, b'tzad gedusha, einei elamash, abatul, etzli yizbodach, by be'el mamish, and by be'keach, and the ikir is two t'noim. Kedusha has 2 rules, bittul, and ashras Hashem. This is time I'm doing physical things. I don't mean anything bad. I'm just not thinking about the Eibishter. It's klipa. Now you get right away nervous. You tell me I'm a bad person. I'm not a bad person, but you're not a good person either. A good person is doing good things. This is our padav. And in halacha and in nigla the teira and teira leiba shmami, padav is okay. It's kosher, right? Some people have another kitchen. You have fleshik, milk, it's padav. But in pnimiyas teira, if it's not serving the Eibishter, it's against the Eibishter. V'akel kasher lakel, all of this nishba v'nimshach gets life. And is drawn mimadrega hasheda shebeklipa b'sitter achra, which is klipa revias and nikir klipas nega. This is Alter Rebbe introduces the klipas nega. I wanted to show you these words inside. So the difference between Teira leiba shamayim and Teira b'shamayim is that Teira leiba shamayim says there's a huge swath, a huge shtickle, life much more than 50% of our lives, which is called reshus. Reshus means do whatever you wish, do whatever you choose, do as you understand. And in Pnimiyas HaTeira, the Reshus is taken away. There's 2 tzadim, Tzad HaGedusha and Tzad Acher. That's the difference between Nigla Teira and Pnimiyas HaTeira. This is called Nishmasa De'erais. Chassidus teaches the Nishama Teira. Now what's the foundation of it all? The foundation of it all is if we lived in Gan Eden, we would have a different world. Don't you think? If we lived in Gan Eden, what would we see? We would see on some level of ideas, some ideas at least, that Ein Eden Movadim. Right? If you live in the Ruchnizdika world, where there is Kedusha, you see that everything is the Eibishter. No? So if you live in a world of Ein Eid Milvadi, right? Let me give you an example which we can all relate to. It says in Chumash Rashi, and it's explained in Chassidus, that when the Eibishter gave Yidden the Torah, he forced them. He forced the Yidden to accept the Torah. The Gemara says in Masechta Megillah, Mikan Midor Abba Leira, every Jew could come along and say, I want out. I was forced, I was tricked, I was deceived. How? Hashem basically told me, take the Torah, I'll kill you. Those are evil choices. Those were the base. Until the story of Purim, after Achashverosh Fakir, the Eibishter gave us every opportunity to run away from him. Listening. But the story of Achashverosh, the Eibishter gave us every opportunity and every reason to run away from him. And us stupid Jews refused. We refused. You have to just go down to the passport office and take out the word Yivrei. I'm sorry, Yehudi, Jew, and right inside the word Hebrew, and he'll leave you alone. Haman was interested in Yehudim, not in Hebrew. And we became akshonim, we became punked at that moment, we all became very frum. Like it's explained in Tanya Perikis. You squeeze a Jew, you see more beauty, not less beauty. It's a funny thing with these Jews. But be that as it may. So the Altreben Kutatayr asks the question. Take, that's the pshat. Hashem picked up Har Sinai. He dangled it over their heads. It became suddenly shadowy, dark. The sun was blocked out. And said, okay, choose. Take the Torah, I'm going to crush you with a mountain. So of course we hold ein mikre yetzi midei pshutei. V'yisyatsu b'sachtes ha'or, the Gemara, melamed, shekof aleim har kigigis. But the Alter Rebbe says there's a pnimius to this. And the pnimius is very important. What's the pnimius? If you see Hashem with your physical eyes, if you see the Eibishter in what's called the Riyah Chushis, vivid vision, you have two choices. I'm asking you. If you see how this whole world is Einet Muvada, wherever you look, you see a bench, you see a Lakus. You see a beam, like a story with the Maggid and the Alter Rebbe, you see a Lakus. Was for a Breda host. And that's what Chassidus explains. The Kof Aleim Har Kegigis. They wish to put the lights on. Yidden saw Atzmas Ein Sof. Not they saw Atzmas Ein Sof on a mountaintop. They saw Atzmas Ein Sof wherever he is. And where is he? On Em Ta'aka v'on Aleim Ta'aka. Imesek Shamayim Sham Ota. V'atziyah She'eli Neka. You're going to run away from the Meibish. Wherever you're going to go, he is. You go to heaven, he's there. You go to the deep at the bottom of the sea, he's there. Wherever you're going to go, the Meibish is. No, Mizrach Du. There's a tzaddik from Badisheve, you know that. Mizrach Du. Du is not Polish for here. Mizrach Du means east is you. Ma'ariv Du. You know the song? Ana, there's a song from the Badisheve that Ana em te'eka v'ana lei em te'eka. Where will I find you or where will I not find you? Yeah. Ma'ila Du. When I go up, that's you. Mata Du. When I go down, it's you. Mizrach Du. I go east, it's you. Ma'ariv Du. I go west, it's you. Sofan Do I go to the north, it's you. Daram Do I go to the south, it's you. Then the next part goes on to say, as good. If something happens to me in my life which is good, it just do, it's you. Chalila Nid, if something happens in my life which is not good, is weiter do, it's also you. When as do is not good. And if it's you, it's good. There's a name of the Heilig of Aditya Merav. Someone told me in shul yesterday a word from the Primish Lander, I think, from the greatest tzaddik in Poland, that there was a Yid had tzaddis. The greatest tzaddik, he had tzaddis, gefährliche tzaddis. No. So what are you supposed to do when you have tzaddis? Says in the Mishnah in Brachas, Mishem shevarach alaro, kach varach alaro, tivach tevach varach alaro. Yeah, you have to be besimcha, misakabel yisurim b'yavo, just like teva nidam and nidam, right? A teva meitiv. Very easy. So right, so it was Yom Tif. He says, Rabbi Shalom, you give me Yisurim. And I'm Makabal the Yisurim b'simcha b'yav. But it's Yom Tiv and you made them in Simcha. So Shayla von Ein Ma'ariv and Simcha b'simcha. Someone told me this in Shul yesterday. Ein Ma'ariv, you spell the father. Are you that problem? Ein Ma'ariv and Simcha b'simcha. Oh wait. But if you see godliness with your eyes, is that get lechkeit? You have another perspective. So the Gemara says Hashem gave us the free will when He gave us the Torah. He took our choice away, but not He took our choice away by threatening to kill us. That's a nigla. Hashem took our choice away by showing us emes. And that's what Pnimis HaTorah is. You understand? Pnimis HaTorah is that emes. So when you're learning Tanya, and you're learning Sifrei Musa, like it says in Akdama, that you say, Dosam Baharare Kedesh Medrash Chazal, a Sefer of Musa based on Torah's emes, and Kabbalah, and Pnimis HaTorah. So they tell you the truth. What's the truth? Eineid Movadeh. If the truth is Eineid Movadeh, there's no middle. Teira Ba'areh, Teira Lei Ba'Shamayim, he is down to earth, it's realistic. It deals with the reality of Elam Hazeh. The reality of Elam Hazeh is that you don't see the baby, you see only yourself. And the Avodah is you trying to serve Hashem within the confines of Elam Hazeh, so you have Chayiv and Yisrael and Yeshua. But Teira B'Shamayim, if someone would suddenly deliver you the way Neshamas in Gan Eden look at reality, you would see a very different reality. And guess what? That reality has been delivered. It's called Dozayah. It's called Pnimius HaTorah. It's called Tanya. And that's why the Tanya is so strict. Tanya is not strict. Tanya's being mean. Tanya is strict. She's giving a different point of view. If it's true, and it is true, that ani loy nivreis el l'shamash face the chol elam kulei loy nivre el l'sham sheini ani loy nivreis el l'shamash es koini. Everything b'shvili nivre ha'elam. Everything is created for every single individual Jew. And why was b'shvili nivre ha'elam? Because ani nivreisi ali loy nivreisi el l'shamash es koini. How many times did the Rebbe say this? The Rebbe said this and said this and said this and said this. Not he believed it. He wanted to take a hammer with one of those big pegs and a reinhaken and a yeah, mamish. That's how many times did the Rebbe say, "Ani loy nivreisi yellow l'shabbos es koini." He meant it, and he said it like he meant it, and he said it like he meant it so much that sometimes we hear it in our sleep, huh? As was we create something, and that's the perspective of Teda Bashamayim. And when you have the perspective of Teda Bashamayim, there's only two sides: Sitta the Gedusha and Sitta Achad. This is the foundation of these Torah. So now that I spent a whole 27 minutes and 5 seconds repeating last week's class with a few little paparoids with some spice. Let me set it up again. We're talking about the Nefesh Habamis, just like we talked about the Nefesh Halakis. Now, we talked about the Nefesh Halakis. We had a whole Pedic that dealt with Etzem of the Nefesh Halakis. In Pedic Vav, how many lines dealt with the Etzem of the Nefesh Habamis? Maybe none, but we spent the whole Sunday on it, you understand? When you talk about the Nefesh Halakis, the Alter Rebbe spent an entire Pedic on the koiches of the Nefesh Halakis, and he didn't even discuss all of them. We spent forever reading from against Kiddush Tetzvov to complete the map of all that's the koiches and the Chamisha Chush. Your whole chapter 3, is dedicated to the koiches of the Nefesh Halakis. How much time did the Tanya give to the Nefesh Bahamis? About 8 lines, 10 if you count generously, but it's enough. It's called Zel Yumazeh. And then we spoke about the Levush with the Nefesh Bahamis. The Levush with the Nefesh Bahamis is in the Levush with the Nefesh Halakis is a whole page, the whole moment. When it comes to Nefesh Bahamis, it's not much a few shuris. It's a few lines. Alter Rebbe says, just like you have the garments of the godly soul, you have the garments of the animal soul, and anything that a person does, which is not Kedusha, is Sadach. You understand? This is Pnimiyas HaTeira. Tanya speaks Neshama of Teira, Teira Bashamayim, and that's how we understand all of these things. So what's going to happen for the rest of this Pedic Vov, Pedic Zayin, Pedic Ches? We're going to be discussing what Klipa is, and we're also going to be discussing Klipa actions. You see, if you remember the discussion of Nefesh Halakis, so we had a Pedic for Etzem HaNeshama, a Pedic for Keches HaNeshama, a page for the Bushai Nefesh, and then a Pedic in 2/3 that spoke about Torah mitzvahs. So the Nefesh is the same way. You have the Etzem of the Nefesh Bahamis, you have the Koich of the Nefesh Bahamis, you have the Levush of the Nefesh Bahamis, and then you have, what's the opposite of Torah mitzvahs? Averis and Aveda Zorah. That language you're not going to have here. That language you're going to have in Perikov Dalet. Perikov Dalet. In Tanya it talks the opposite of Torah is Aveda Zorah, the opposite of mitzvahs Averis. And he develops the idea there, it's not for now. Okay, we've got enough bad mood just for Perikov Vav, we don't have to add bad mood for Perikov Dalet. So if anybody wants to ask any questions or make any comments, I will listen. Anish, that men hiber leine nochamo, and we're going to relearn and move on. I did a chazor of last week's class. I don't regret it. I felt it was necessary. It was very intense. So, how do they say in the culture? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay? I'm going to read inside, okay? Huh? Yeah, choice. Okay, Rabbi Isai, we're on page Yud Amud Beis, 3 lines from the top of the page. Okay? So let's imagine. Let's interpret. Let's create. Those are 3 big Avedas. Ein aggressive and say. But we're going to commit all these sins in one go. That in these few lines that we had before, the 10, 12 lines, I don't know how many lines it was. In the beginning of Perek Vav, we discussed Etzem of the Nefesh Bahamis, Keiches of the Nefesh Bahamis, and the Levush of the Nefesh Bahamis. Which in the Nefesh Halakis was a whole Perek Beis, a whole Perek Gimel, and Amud the Perek Dal. That's it, done. The Alter Rebbe doesn't give it equal time in terms of words. He gives it equal time in terms of Higoyin. He explained it to you. And forget, because he explained the Nefesh HaLekis first, he can afford to be Makatza, the Nefesh HaBahamis, because you can understand from one to the other. Now we're talking about the next surgi, which is what you do. So there was a whole pedic and a half, or more than a half, that discussed the actions of Torah and mitzvahs, how they connected to the Meibishter. And if you remember that discussion, the Alter Rebbe said that when you learn Torah and do mitzvahs, you're more connected to the Meibishter than you're connected mitzad your neshama alone. Remember that? Yeah? I'll say it one more time for points. That your neshama is the chelik l'kam mal mamish. And nevertheless, Torah and mitzvahs are more connected to the Meibishter in a revealed way than your neshama, than my neshama, than our neshamas. And therefore we have to have Torah and mitzvahs. Torah and mitzvahs reveal or strengthen or add to our connection to the Eibush. There is mitzvah atzmi. Remember? Men gedenkt. Yeah, this is what we learned. So now by Averis, it's the same thing backwards. You have a Nefesh HaBamis, which has an etzem and has koiches and has levushim, as we discussed. Now we're going to talk about choices, actions. And we're going to say the same idea, that when you do an act, which is from Sitra Achara, from Klipa, from the other side, you can come this way, come over here. Is that right? Just like when you do a mitzvah, it connects it to Lakus, when you do an Aveda, it connects it to Liyumah. So let's read it inside, okay? What I tell you, it's 3 lines. 3 lines, Rabbi side, 3 lines. From the top of page Yud Aleph, Yud Amid Beis, that means page 20. And we're going to push it Lein and Innovating, okay? We're going to read it inside. Vehein Hein. And these thoughts, words, and deeds are called Amaisim Ashanasim Tachat HaShemesh. Actions that are done underneath the sun. Now what's the Chiddush here? What's the Chiddush in these words? The Chiddush in these words is we have to separate the word Sitra Achara from the word Ra. A person eats a piece of cake and enjoys it. You're not enjoys it. You're not going to call him evil. Now, if you're in the Neshama of Atzilus, living in Atzilus, and you eat a piece of cake and enjoy it, that's Ra. But if you live in Elam Hazeh, you know, they say the way, rules of the days, and eat a piece of cake and you enjoyed it, you made a bracha, but it's tzaddik. But in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says, Amitis Advarim, Klipa isn't bad, it's just not good. It's just not good. Now that sounds so insensitive and so severe. It is insensitive. And it is severe. You know why? Because it's Teda Bashamayim. You're hearing the Teda, how it's understood in the Neshama. How it's understood Lamaila. I'm sorry.
Neutral?
There's no neutral. That's the whole idea.
It's not neutral?
It's not neutral. It's not neutral. In Nigla the Teda, there's a huge space that's neutral. And in Pnimis HaTeda, in Shamayim, there's 2 sides, not 3. Tzad HaKedusha and Tzad Acher. Now later we're going to talk about Klipas Nega and Klipas Lagamri, but it's Tzad Acher, it's the other side. You here last Sunday? No, so we talked about the word, I introduced the word Tumah, which is found in Tanya, in Perikov Tes. The reason Alter Rebbe brings the word Tumah into the equation, even though the classic terminologies are Klipa, is because he wants to make us understand why neutral is not neutral. Neutral isn't benign, it's not padif. It's tzadach, it's sitrach. Why? Because you only have 2 nefashos. And you have to get chayes from one of them or from the other. So when you're doing neutral things, you're not getting chayes of Nefesh HaLekis. So there's only one other choice. You follow? That's the idea. That's the presentation. So b'meila, as long as it's tachas Hashemesh, as long as it's not yanim of Torah mitzvahs, Avedis Hashem. And by the way, everything is Avedis Hashem. Everything, there's no such thing in this world of not Avedis Hashem. Avedis Hashem is everything. Avedis Hashem is everything. Basically, you have a hayem yem. You want to hear a hayem yem. I told you this 100 times. Any time a person says you want to hear it, means you're going to hear it whether you want to or not. The Rebbe Marash had gesagt to the Bela Bela. The Rebbe Marash said to one of his Hasidim, who was the Rebbe Bela Bela, that in Kishreinis is a given Amamutze. He wasn't very bright. He wasn't a big chassid. He was a Pasha Tarid. But he was a very big Makusha. The Rebbe Marash didn't have a lot of Chassidim. The Rebbe Marash did not have a lot of Chassidim. I'm sorry. He certainly did not have a lot of great Chassidim. There are a lot of Pasha Chassidim. But the love between the Rebbe and Chassid and Rebbe, the Rebbe Marash was outstanding. That's how the Friedrich Rebbe describes it. The Rebbe was a Pasha Tarid, but he was very Makusha to his Rebbe. And he's mentioned twice in the Hayem Yem. And one of the occasions, I think twice, the Rebbe Marash said to him, Ella ich bedir mekane. Ella, I'm jealous of you. Du gehst the mark. You're walking on the market. He was a trader, he was a seicher, he was a retail shopkeeper. No rich man, no big chavra man. When you meet another Yid, and you speak about Teda and Avoida, I think the Lashon is Allah Malachim Maila Zayin in Dir Makanin. The whole universe is jealous of you. Not just the physical universe, the whole what's the word I'm looking for? Supernal cosmos, Alice, is Makana Eden that stands in the middle of a business and talks about the Mebish. So there's no such thing as not Avedas Hashem at all, unless it's an Aveda. But you have to have a kavanah, you have to have a direction, you have to have a kivun, you have to have a purpose. And when you don't have that kavanah, it's called Ma'asim Ashenasim Tachas Hashem. Deeds, actions that are done Tachas Hashem, underneath the sun. Asher Akel Heva V'Rois Ruach. It's all empty. It's substanceless. It has no mamosh, it has no real purpose and no real value. So you can do the same thing twice. And on one occasion it's called Tachas Hashemish, and it's Hevel and Rois Ruach. And on a different occasion it's L'Shem Shamayim and Do'ehu. And because it's L'Shem Shamayim with the Ehu, it's Avedas Hashem, and it's Mevared Birudu, it makes a Didim B'Tachtenim, and it gives the Malachim Maila a reason to be jealous of a Poshet Yid in a market. In a market. In market. So on page 20, page 20, it's about 4 lines down. V'hein heiman, these are called amaisim, all actions. Asher nasim tachas Hashem, which is done underneath the sun. Asher akel hevel v'roi thruach, it's all substanceless and of an evil spirit. Now I know that I'm being a nudnik, but I want you to understand the zeliyum hazeh. Understand how this is developing. What took 3 parakim is now 15 lines. Etzem of the Nefesh HaBahamis, Kirchat of the Nefesh HaBahamis, Levush of the Nefesh HaBahamis, Alter Rebbe summarized in less than a page, less than an of it, and he moves immediately on to Ma'aseh Dibur Machshava, which by the Nefesh HaLekis was an entire Pedic in 2/3. The second 2/3 of Pedic Dalet, and all of Pedic Hey. But when it came to the Nefesh HaBahamis, Alter Rebbe got to that after 15 lines of explaining all the Hatzois, all the foundations of what a nefesh is, that he spent so much time with Nefesh HaLekis, and he spent so little time, so few words in the Nefesh HaBahamis. Now we're talking about not the Levushim, but the Hevel V'Rois Ruach. In the language of the Zeh, they come from a broken spirit, or they break the spirit. It's not Kiddush. And the Alter Rebbe says, V'chein kol diburim. And just like when you do a deed, and the deed is disconnected from Avodas Hashem, it's not bad, it's just not good. It's disconnected from Torah or from mitzvahs or from B'chol D'Rochecha De'eyu and Kol Ma'asecha Yu L'Shem Shamayim. So it's called Tachas Hashemish, it's called Tviru Derucha, and it's connected to the other side. This is true in what you do, in what you say, in what you think. Let me just say that one more time. It's true in what I do, and it's true in what I say, and it's true in what I think. Van der Wort vervredigen hebben. I'm sorry for digressing and bulbing. The English translation of bulbing is bulbing. It's bulbing. By Chassidim it's known that you come to a Rebbe and you say the whole truth. You come to Rabbi, you say a Rabbi, you say the truth. A Rabbi, you don't lie. Even the uncomfortable truths. And the Rebbe has to handle it. That's one of the jobs of a Rebbe. Yeah. But it has to bother you. So when the Meisman, the Friedrich Rebbe, Yid came to the Friedrich Rebbe, and he knew that a Rebbe, you got to tell the whole truth. So he told the Rebbe the whole truth. Friedrich Rebbe read his zettel, and when he left Yechidus, he said to the mask, he said, a Yid comes into me, he confesses all his Avedas, he's not even embarrassed. In other words, the point of telling a Rebbe what he did wrong is to do tshuva, not to say yippee. Yeah. So anyway, so I mean me, not anybody else but me. My actions, my speech, and it has to bother me. Huh?
But I felt like the whole guilt thing is not...
It's not useful. Guilt is not useful. Actions are useful. Corrections are useful. Avodas Hashem is useful. Guilt is a waste of time, yeah, but it's quite popular in my little circle. In my head, it takes up a lot of space. But it's a waste of time. Guilt is marashcheda. Marashcheda is klipa. Klipa is ra. And ra is malach hamoves.
Going to the Rebbe with an approach of like, I want to do better.
Yeah, doing tshuva. But when you come into the Rebbe, you confess all your avedas. But your kavanah is not to do better. Your kavanah is, okay, I'll tell him the truth. I'll tell him the truth. But you have no interest in becoming a different person. Then what's the point? What's the teyelis? What's the point? So the Alter Rebbe says, Shezeu Pirish Rosh Siddur Achad. This is the meaning of Siddur Achad. The other side, Pirish, this means Tzad Achad, the other side. She'enei Tzad Kedusha, which is not the side of holiness. And again, the painful part of this is that as you learn the Yorim of Muslim, as they're understood in Pnimiyas HaTeira, in Teira Bashamayim, what you learn is that there's no middle, there's no pattern. And if it's not Tzad Kedusha, if it's the side of holiness, it's Tzad Achad. For something to be holy, it's very simple. Allah, it's only if you have Hashrav, a manifesting and a drawing down of the holiness that comes from the Holy One, blessed be He. And the Hebishter Kedusha will not rest, something which is bottled him. So those are the two conditions. Bittul and Hashras Hashkim. And in Bittul there's two categories, and no one understands this, but Alter Rebbe says it. Ben bepeil mamish ki malachim al yenim, ben bekeach ki kol ish yisrael l'mata. By malachim the Bittul is actual, and by neshamas Yisrael in this world the Bittul is potential. Because a Yid has a potential for Bittul, the Shechina rests on him no matter what. Like the Alter Rebbe says in the end of Perikid Aleph of Tanya, that if you have 10 Rishoyim Gemurim, listen to this, 10 perfect Roshas, guiltless Jews, no guilt whatsoever. And a malach would walk into the room, Shamaiti me Rabbi say, Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, heard from my Rebbe, that the malachim would be in a room full of tender shoyim gemurim that have no charot, would be overwhelmed with aim of a fachat from the presence of the Shechina that's there, because there's 10 Yidden in the room. Akol beyasor Shechina shari aliyela. If 10 Yidden, the Shechina is there no matter what. Why? Because the Yid has a potential for bittul. B'koyach, a possibility and a potential for bittul, and the Shechina is there based on that potential and possibility. Shebekeiche, that he has the potential and the possibility, he is batal mamish l'akadosh baruch Hu, to be batal to Hashem mamish, b'mesiras nafsha akadosh, with the mesiras nefesh for the sanctity of Hashem's name, as will be discussed later on in chapters 18 and 19. Perek Chesed Perek Keteres. U'b'meil of the Shechina rest. This is Rabbi side. This is the difference between a Yid and a Goy. I mean, this is a long story. It's a complicated story. It's a controversial story for some. But the Nekud is this. The difference between a Yid and a Goy is not so pronounced that a Yid is a tzaddik and a Goy is a tzaddik. The real difference between a Yid and a Goy is pronounced that a Yid is a Rasha versus a Goy is a Rasha. And the difference is, if a Goy is a Rasha, he made choices, and he's responsible for the choices that he made. If a Yid is a Rasha, he made choices, but he has holy grandparents, and they're not going to let go of him. Now that's really the story. That's the Geschichte. That's the Geschichte. A guy who's a Rasha is Klipper. I don't know if you saw this video. There's a lady, Mrs. Fishman. She actually contacted me, and I wanted to find it. Because a guy actually asked me, do you actually believe that all Goyim are bad? And she quoted the Tanya. So I wanted to find the source. She had a beautiful story. This Mrs. Fishman had a wonderful story. That she went into the Rabbi Yechidus in the middle of the night. She lived in Worcester. You might know who she is. Mrs. Fishman, now she lives in Colorado. You know the name sounds familiar at all? So she came in to see the Rebbe, and she was waiting. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock. How do you wait for the Rebbe? So one person falls asleep, another person says till, another person paces, and she daydreamed. What was her daydream? If I could ask the Rebbe any question, what would I ask? And she actually wrote on a paper 5 questions. Now she knew that she's not allowed to go into the Rebbe for an afternoon chat. It's 2 in the morning. So, you go in, you do what you have to, and you leave. So she prepared a tzedakah with real questions, whether they were personal questions. She was involved in Askonot. She was a Malamedet. She taught children in the Lubavitcher school in Worcester. She also taught Chassidus. She teaches other Yemedeh Tanya. to people. So she went into the Rebbe, she gave the Rebbe her note that she had prepared before. And the Rebbe read the note, and the Rebbe answers all of her questions, and she's on the way out. And the Rebbe looks up and says to her, "You have no more questions?" You have no more questions? She had written down 5 questions on a paper. But she wrote them down as a fantasia. If I could ask the Rebbe any question, I would ask him. But she knew she couldn't. So it wasn't. So she says, "Yeah, I actually wrote down 5 more questions." And the Rebbe answered all 5 of her questions. And one of the 5 questions is, how could we say that all goyim are bad? So the Rebbe said very simple, that what it says in Tanya Sof Perek Aleph does not go on Chassidus Yom Haseilam. Righteous Gentiles are not klipa. They're not klipa. Perhaps they're klipas nega, but they're not klipas rois, klipas tmeyes lagam. Like it says Sof Perek Aleph is only by goyim who make bad choices. A goy who lived the way Eibishter wants him is not from klipas tmeyes lagam. That's what the Rebbe said. That's it. It's a one line, but it's such an important one line. So like I said to you before, the real difference, the Yid and the Goy, is the bad Jew. Because the Eibush doesn't let us go. We're such special people. We have Heilig Ezedis, you understand? We have Heilig Ezedis. We have always Heinen and Merkava. The Avis were holy people. Akein Zachu. The Avis was Eichen. Lahamshech, Libneim, Achareim, Ad Eloh. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Me'eses, Sil, the Kedushin. We call it a Pintelayid. The Pintelayid is not our own doing, it's the Avis HaKadosh. And a guy doesn't have holy Zedis. So he's subject to his own choices. He's subject to his own, he makes bad choices, he's bad. A Yid who makes bad choices, that's the real issue. And the Alter Rebbe calls it Bittul B'Kayach. You can be a big Rasha, but because of your holy Zayda, you have Bittul B'Kayach. There's Bittul inside of you. So the Shechin is there. The Shechin is there because of the Bittul B'Kayach that a Yid possesses. You understand? Which is why it says in the Mishnah, even if one Yid learns Teda, you have to learn it against the Kedesh Tzedach Gimel. The Alter Rebbe talks about the difference between Asara Sheish Meiskim B'Teda and Menayim Afilu Chamisha, Menayim Afilu Shneisha, Menayim Afilu Shnayim, Menayim Afilu Echad. The Alter Rebbe makes a big deal of Asara Sheish. And if you're familiar with that against the Kedesh 23, he says Asara Sheish we have Shechina Shruya. And less than Asara you have Shechina Imei. But the word that the Alter Rebbe uses is not the word Hashra, it's the word Hislapshus. The Alter Rebbe develops the difference between the word Hashra. Hashra means that the Eibush is by you the way he is by himself. Hislapshus means the Eibush is by you based on how close you are to him. It's a matter of a minyan. Now here the Lashon is Echad She'esav Ter Shechina Shruya. But in the Geras HaKedesh Chav Gimel, the Alter Rebbe wants to suggest that Shechina Shruya is only about Sorah. So it's okay, it's a kasha. Okay, and we're going to leave it alone. V'kol be'asara shchinta shruya b'chudi la'ela. When 10 Yid not together, the Shechina is there always. Let's say always. They're thinking, they're doing Dvarim Asurim. Now the Rebbe says the last words of Tanya chapter 11 is that if you have a Rosh Gomor, that the Gil, the Neshama is not revealed in him b'chinas Nimis, elu b'chinas Makiv. That's how Perek Yud Aleph, chapter 11 in Tanya finishes. What a pun, if there ever was one. Chapter 11 in Tanya finishes with the Rosh Hashanah. And what does it say? That the Shechina by a Yid is makif even if he's a no guilt, favos. So here in Perek Vav it says why? Because a Yid has something called Bittul B'Kayach. It's a funny concept. Bittul B'Kayach means I love you but I think I hate you. If I don't, it's the Neshama. It's a gift from the Avis, you understand? Bittul B'Koyach, a Yid has Bittul B'Koyach. A Goy can have Bittul, but Bittul B'Koyach, I love God, but I don't think so. That's called the schizophrenic, it's called the Meshuggah. I'll help us with that. But by a Yid it's the Neshama. Because in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says it this way, Perek Yud Ches. Alter Rebbe asks, how does every Yid have a Pintel Yid? And he answers, Ha'aves hein hein amar kov. And they were Zeiche, that we should be Yid. That's how the Alter Rebbe says it in Tanya. But I have no issue with that, it doesn't bother me. Okay, aval kol ma she'enei batel etzlei yizbarach. If something is not batel to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and remember, we had this idea of bittul b'poel mamish and bittul b'koyach. So then, elu davar nifur b'fnei atzmi. You're separate from the Eibishter. Now, being separate from the Eibishter is not evil. It just means I'm not bottled. I'm not so subservient that my whole reality is him and not myself. So in Elam Hazeh, you understand, in down to earth, in worldly terms, a huge part of being Bifnei Atzmei is called Reshus. You're a mensch. Mitzvahs you have to do. Avedas you're not allowed to do. But it's not a mitzvah, not an Aveda, leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. Azeh das al pi nigle. That's the halacha. But not the Pnimiyas HaTeiro. So the Rebbe says, so then Eini Mekabel Chayis Mugdeshosah Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bebechinas Pnimiyas HaKedusha Umuhusa V'atzmusa B'chayid V'yat. So listen to my translation of this. You gotta live. You have to live. And you have to live from something. Life has to come from a reservoir. Yeah, you have a machine. You want it to work and plug it into it's electric. And you can plug it into this wall and you can plug it into this wall. But you can't plug it into a wall that doesn't have a socket. And there's two sockets. One socket is tzad ha'kedusha, and the other socket is tzad achet. That's all. Not tzad hara, tzad achet. And this is what Alter Rebbe is trying to present to us. When one's actions, or speech or thought, is not bittul b'teil mamish, or bittul b'teil, so it lives from tzad achet. And living from tzad achet is called, amongst other things, Tumah and Sitra Achet. Elu b'chinas acherayim. You're living from the rear, from the back of Kedusha. That descends from step to step. Myriads of steps. To the chain reaction of worlds. That through the laws of cause and effect, with tzimtzumim rabim and many contractions. And that the light is so diminished. Less and even less. That it should be able to contract itself and manifest itself in the state of galus. Within that thing which is separated, to give him life, to give him existence, from a non-existential state into an independently existential state. Should not become nothing as it was prior to it being created. Now Rabbi said these handful of lines I just davened up are an entire page in Tanya. This few lines right here is chapter 22. Perek Chav Beis. And I'm going to leave this for Perek Chav Beis. I'm not now going to... I could spend now another class explaining the pathology of Klippa, yeah? But there's one word that I want to leave over for next week. Mitzvah Hashem. And that's the word Golus. The rest of it, which is Ribit Tzimtzumim and Acherayim and Makif, we'll do Chav Beis, the whole Perek. The whole Perek dedicated to Klippa. But the word Golus, I want to discuss now a little bit, and it's going to come up again in Perek Yud Zayin. It's going to come up again in Perek Yud Tes, and it's going to come up again in Perek Chav Beis.